There are great mysteries involving ancient Egypt and how they managed to build all those pyramids in such a remote area. But one story that has been getting attention lately is just as intriguing as the pyramids. Many experts believe that Pharaoh Akhenaten has alien characteristics. Are you curious to know more? So tag along, don't subscribe to forget. And come with me because I'm Tiago Tadeo, and welcome to the Upside Down. Origins. Before I talk about Akhenaten's DNA, I need to tell you about his life story and culture, so we can understand whether or not he had any contact with aliens, right? Akhenaten was born with a different name, since his baptismal name, let's say, was Amenephis IV. He was raised in the city of Thebes, Egypt, and his father was the 13th dynasty pharaoh, Amenhotep III. His mother was Queen T. It could even be my nickname, because I'm Tiago Tadeo, right? But let's go. His father's rule brought peace and prosperity to Egypt, and he was considered a good pharaoh. During this period, while growing up, Akhenaten did not have any impressive features, was considered physically fragile, and did not practice any type of activity related to hunting or handling weapons. In fact, Akhenaten was not even first on the succession list. However, his older brother, Prince Thutmose, died, but it is unknown how this happened. This made Akhenaten the first in line to the throne of Egypt. Government. Indeed, Akhenaten became pharaoh. This happened around 1364 BC when he was only 15 years old. Some historians believe that Amenhotep III assisted his son in the government as co-ruler shortly before he died. It is speculated that some pharaohs did this so that the government would not have problems after their death. It makes sense, right? Because he wants the people there to remain prosperous, the reign to continue working well. It is believed that it was during the same period that Akhenaten had married his wife, Nefertiti. According to some studies, their relationship seemed to work very well, because Nefertiti had a very big political role at that time, something that no other wife had until then. At the beginning of his rule, Akhenaten carried out a series of works in some regions of Egypt, and built some temples to the god Atum. On account of this devotion to the god Atum, in the 5th year of his reign, he officially changed his name from Atumhotep, which means Amon is pleased, to Akhenaten, which means the acting spirit of Atum. The name change meant a new beginning, not only for Akhenaten, but also for his reign, since from his 8th year in power, he began a persecution of the old gods, mainly the gods associated with the city of Thebes, like Amon, Mut, and Quespasix. Because of this, the pharaoh had their name erased from any record in Egypt, in addition to establishing the god Atum as the only deity that should be worshipped in all of Egypt. This made Akhenaten the creator, even if indirectly, of what we understand as monotheism, that is, the worship of only one god. Historians theorize that Akhenaten did this to end the influence that the priests of other gods had on the people, and also on the riches as they owned precious stones, herds, and many lands. Aside from establishing Atum as the only god, Akhenaten didn't do much after that, as he had a more peaceful, artistic body-oriented personality. Because of this, the administration of the kingdom was given to the charge of Ai, and also of the general Oremeb, who later also became pharaohs for a time. In his government, Akhenaten caused the empire of Egypt to lose important allies and very valuable territories, such as the gold mines of Nubia. Death. Akhenaten reigned only 17 years in all. The cause of his death is still a mystery to this day, but many historians believe that he had been murdered at the behest of all the priests harmed by his very strict imposition there. During the end of his reign, Akhenaten entered new co-regents called Semenker, and he was the one who reigned in his place until his son, Tutankhamun, aged 8, could assume the throne of Egypt. Tutankhamun's reign was shorter than that of his father, as he also died at the age of 18. Basically, Tutankhamun undid everything his father had done and restored the relationship between the priest and the royal family. Physical characteristics and mysterious DNA. Okay, now that you know the story behind Akhenaton, I'll tell you the evidence that shows that he may have had some connections with extraterrestrial beings. Akhenaton's remains were found in 1907, and since then, several studies have been done with the genetic material taken from him. In one such study, Professor Stewart and his colleagues made a discovery that could rewrite human history. Stewart used a technique known to preserve ancient DNA in the samples he collected from both Akhenaton and 8 other pharaohs. This technique duplicates and expands the DNA, allowing the researchers to have a more precise reading of the genetic structure they are studying there at that moment. Of all the pharaohs studied, 8 showed very interesting results, but nothing out of the ordinary. However, the samples taken from Akhenaton drew a lot of attention. The DNA sample was taken from a piece of brain tissue. What they found was a gene called CXPAC5, which is one of the genes responsible for controlling the development of the cortex. By having a larger cortex, this shows that Akhenaton had a larger than normal cranial capacity, which means he had a larger head and brain than other people. One thing that collaborates with this version is the Egyptian iconography. If we take them into account, we can see that the images of several pharaohs are physically very similar to each other, with broad shoulders and slim waist. But the same does not apply to the representations found of Akhenaton, since his iconographies portray him with a more protruding belly, a retracted chest with a pointed and also large head. However, it is also not known whether the expansion of his brain was caused by mutation or something of the sort. But some evidence points to a technology that can manipulate anyone's genetics more than 3,300 years ago. Was that really possible? Well, in one of his reports, the professor made the following statement. Extreme aging and extreme mutation are the only 2 mechanisms that reduce telomerase, a genetic enzyme. According to genetic and archaeological evidence, Akhenaton lived to be about 40 years old. This is insufficient to absorb all of the chromosomal telomerase there, leaving an inconvenient but plausible explanation. An electron microscope study showed signs of a nucleotide scar, which is a telltale sign of healing from the DNA helix after exposure to strong mutanogens, thus supporting this hypothesis. With that statement, the professor basically meant that the amount of telomerase found in Akhenaton is lower than that found in other people his age. Therefore, he believes that he has been exposed to mutagenic agents, which were responsible for this genetic mutation in his DNA. Their studies showed that Akhenaton was exposed to mutations during his lifetime, thus collaborating with some theories that say that the ancient Egyptians had come into contact with extraterrestrial beings after they visited them while civilization was still growing on the banks of the River Nile. Now, scientists want to find and carry out tests with the descendants of Akhenaton and see if they found the same mutated gene in order to be able to study it and actually prove their theory. This discovery could change the world as we know it today, and who knows, it might bring to light long hidden truths. Yes, guys, the world is really an unknown mystery, a giant question mark, but soon I may bring you a video clarifying things for you, right? See you in the next video, so don't forget to leave a comment. Let's do the following. Who made it to the end puts it down here. What an incredible video! See you in the next video. A hug. Until next time. Thanks.